All right, Pretty Good Parents. If you're new to Pretty Good Parents, welcome. You're here with
Great choice.
Josh
Love
and
to have
Dan,
you.
and we're here just chatting all things parenting. So, last episode, Josh, we talked about discipline and consequences.
Yeah.
You want to give me a quick recap on and our listeners on that missed out on discipline and consequences?
Yes. Main point is a reframe of why we give consequences or give discipline. It's for learning opportunity for our children. And it's more about are they learning and what are they learning than it is severity of consequence or length or intensity. It's all about are they learning? Because if you can have a good conversation, you might not need to give consequence. So we talked a lot about different examples and how to do it, but the trap that a lot of us fall into is we get impassioned and really volatile or emotional and want to dole out intense consequences and kind of forget and skip over the learning opportunity. And if they can learn, that's way more important. Because sometimes you give a heavy consequence, they don't learn anything.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of examples, some from our own parenting, but from a lot of like listening to kids over the years, just talk about like what doesn't work and listen to parents get super pissed and fired up about how much consequences they want to give and how it just misses the mark. So
Yeah, no, it was great. So if you missed it, go check it out. Our last episode. Today we have a real banger for you, and it is how to motivate your child and or children if you have multiple.
yeah,
This is a topic that is near and dear to my heart because I like to motivate, Josh.
yeah,
Yeah.
hear a lot about it. See the impact of it.
So no, I mean I'm actually really excited to learn some tidbits here because I tried to motivate one of my kids just the other day, and I feel like it went horribly wrong.
Oh, the
Yeah.
listener is on their seat.
Yeah. Would you like to hear the story, Josh?
Yes.
Okay.
What happened?
So just pretty
Listener,
standard.
I don't know, by the way. This is the first time I've heard this.
Yeah. So this is a standard thing we do at our house, which is eat dinner. We like to eat dinner every night. We like to sustain with meals. And one of the things, and this is probably on me growing up, but smacking was not allowed at the dinner table when I was growing up, right? It was chew with your mouth closed.
Okay.
And that, right? And so then there's this thing where we kind of joke with the kids. I joke with the kids. Anyways, Libby could care less. She's like, let them be them.
Yeah.
But I'm like, hey, someday you guys are going to get older and you're going to want to go on a date. And I go, this is all for you. But when you're chewing with your mouth wide open and you're smacking, nobody wants to hear that, right?
Yeah. Or see it.
Right? It's just like not a thing.
Not
So it's
appetizing.
kind of become a joke at this point, and I feel like it's pretty lighthearted, and we kind of have these little inside jokes or I'll do things or looks, to do it. And so the other night, our middle child, Tyler, happened to be smacking. And, I said a joke about it, and then, he kept doing it. And
He kept smacking?
Yeah, he kept
Okay.
kind of, and because he was excited and talking and telling stories, right?
Yeah.
And so then maybe it happened a couple times, and the third time I said something like, what are we going to do about this? This is crazy. You just keep smacking like over and over.
He was pushing your buttons.
Right. But he wasn't doing it intentionally on purpose. And he's such a sensitive kid and just instantly like turned away and just started welling up, right? And I felt horrible.
Soul crusher.
Yeah, just crushed his soul, right? And I felt so bad, just like a horrible dad,
Yeah.
And then like instantly get the look from my wife, like, what'd you do?
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, yeah, I know it. Like I was there. I did
I
it.
can see.
But it just
destroyed.
sucks. And so I think at the heart of it, when we're discussing about what we want to talk about tonight, and it was like how to motivate your kids. And I feel like my intentions were the best to want to motivate him to learn how not to smack.
Yeah.
I love it that it's derived down to smacking.
Yeah,
And
real
this is
important
we're
skill
setting
of
the bar
life.
high. We're
Yeah,
setting the bar
real
high for
success stories
motivation.
here.
Yeah. Who wants to
Those
be?
kids are
Who
amazing.
wants to be
Not a single smack all night. They're really
smacker?
going to kill it.
I mean, they
Those
never
nickel
smack. I've never
kids.
heard them
I
smack.
never
It's
heard of
amazing.
smack. Oh, their dad must be so good
Yeah,
at dinner, like
yeah.
really inspiring.
So
Quiet eating.
yeah. So there you go. That's all I got for you. Just a
Yeah.
failed.
Well, the motivation piece is usually rooted in something that's good, some sort of good intent. Like it really is for usually for their well-being.
Right.
Sometimes it's for like our pet project, or we're living vicariously through them and trying to redo our childhood. Sure, that stuff happens. But for a lot of parents, it really is, I want what's best for them. This was painful for me, or this was good for me. I want this for them. And we don't spend a ton of time analyzing how best to make that a reality in them. We just kind of fire off when we're triggered. So you were triggered when Tyler was smacking, and you're thinking, oh, this is out of control. It's like rampant smacking here. Have I not done a good enough job of teaching how to keep your mouth closed? Where is this going to lead to? I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but that's when we react as parents versus thinking, what really is the best way to bring about this behavior I want for Tyler?
Mm-hmm.
You want him to avoid embarrassment. You want him to be perceived as someone who has manners, let's say around the dinner table. But we fail to calculate what's the best per kid, because it's different for every kid. Sometimes they respond well to joking. Sometimes they like sarcasm. Sometimes they need a private conversation. It depends on the setting and the kid. And if Tyler's a sensitive soul, being able to calculate what lands best with Tyler that really creates change for him, that's where as parents we are usually, it can be aloof, and we just get triggered. The button gets, pushed. Smacking.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, what? We can't tolerate that. We got to address it. And you addressed it kind of unintelligently, without calculating who is it, what is it, when is it, does this land well? No, it doesn't. Oh, geez. I could see in his demeanor he shut down. Now it's getting reinforced or confirmed by my wife, who's getting mad at me.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this sucks. My attempt to help my son be better in an area missed the mark.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the point of tonight's subject, is how to motivate, but how to motivate without hurting.
And I feel like maybe shaming, because I feel like probably the way I don't think it was intentional on my part to shame him, but
Yeah.
the tone or whatever, like like the last time I reacted, there was probably like a shameful element. And then I just,
Anytime we do it in front of other people, the likelihood of shame goes up.
yeah.
Because it's revealing in front of others. Even if you pulled him aside and said the same thing, the shame value would go down, because it's not as embarrassing. It's not as you're not calling out in front of his siblings. So it's a big kind of takeaway, is our ability to calculate how is this going to land. If you really want to inspire change, it behooves us to think through, who is it? How best do they receive it? What's the best delivery and setting and timing? We're human, and we cannot pay attention sometimes and get caught up in the moment and fire off. But as a parent, inevitably our words carry a lot more weight. They have a ton of power, a ton of influence. And we often fail to calculate that. Like, you and I go to work all day, and our words have, let's say, some level of potency, 5 out of 10. But at home with our kids, what we say is rated a lot higher. And it's difficult for us to always remember that. Mm-hmm. We can just be like, well, they know I love them. They know I'm trying to help them. And we fire off like, what the hell's wrong with you? I can see all your teeth in your food. That's disgusting. No one's going to like you. And we're thinking, oh, it's kind of funny. It is true. Hopefully they absorb it and it's all fine. But depending on the kid, that could be significant shaming. Mm-hmm. That could be, and especially in front of like the rest of the family. So being able to calculate, how does each of our children, if we have multiple children, how do they respond to our attempt to help them improve? our
Yeah.
attempt to motivate, our attempt to inspire, because they all absorb differently. Now, we're going to speak in generalities tonight because most kids respond well in some areas and most kids are hurt in some of these examples. So we're going to speak in generalities as we always do. But it's important for us to be able to remember, if you want your kid to learn something, whether we got talked consequences or learning opportunity last podcast or tonight, how to motivate, think through, well, how best do they respond? What's the track record? Where do they seem to light up and when do they seem to shut down? And as a parent, we should adjust regularly to get the best results. So if Tyler's a tender soul, you'd say next time, like after dinner, you tolerate your discomfort of the smacking. And then after dinner, say, hey, bud, I love listening to you talk tonight and I loved your stories. Please keep doing that. And this might sound annoying, but while you were telling your fun story, I saw all your food and it looked a little gross.
Yeah.
And you might want to just be thinking like, cover your mouth or pause while you're eating and chewing and talking, and then just wait. But I don't want that to overshadow how much I enjoyed listening to you tonight. That's likely to be received better.
Pretty sure it would have been way better
than a spotlight on like, what are you doing? You're violating our family table rules.
Yeah.
So how to motivate your child. As typical, we're going to try to do the what, the why, and the how. So what is it? Well, we're looking to inspire. We are looking to unlock or unburden. And we're looking to possibly develop our children. We're regularly playing a part in shaping their values and their interests, sometimes directly, but oftentimes indirectly. So the what is, how are we influencing and inspiring our kids to be their own person, eventually an adult? So why is this so important? Well, whether we know it or not, we are often playing a part of shaping their worldview by what we talk about, what we prioritize, what we emphasize, what we reinforce. And if we're not paying attention, we can be reinforcing and prioritizing maybe the wrong value or maybe the wrong habit. Let's say, for example, we're going to exaggerate and say, all you did ever around the dinner table was correct people smacking. Your kids could think, holy shit, all dad cares about is whether we smack or not. It doesn't matter the content of our conversation. It doesn't matter the authenticity of my sharing or my day. It's all about smacking. And it's funny as we talk about it, but I hear from people often, what is prioritized? And it's not uncommon for kids to be discouraged or bothered by what was prioritized in their family of origin. And oftentimes parents just weren't paying attention. They just kept doing their thing, not realizing, you're prioritizing smacking over sharing.
Yeah.
Right? Like that sucks, because I'd say most parents, if given a choice, they said, I'd rather you smack and share than not smack and not share at the dinner table. Yeah. Now, you didn't know that at that moment you were stepping up in that dinner situation. You didn't know, wow, is it really one or the other? And I'm not saying Tyler's going to walk away thinking all dad cares about is smacking. But if we're not conscious of what we're re-emphasizing or prioritizing or modeling in how we're motivating, we are instilling possibly like lesser values. So the why is what we put attention on, where we spend time, what we re-emphasize, or what we emphasize, oftentimes sets their own influences, at very least, their values and their worldview. We, as parents, we often give them the fuel that they run on. So your boys are a great example. You're passionate about golf. Not surprisingly, they're passionate about golf. Well, that didn't like fall out of the sky. Mm-hmm. Like that's not in your faucet or in the air. That's what you talk about a lot. You emphasize. Now, there's great characteristics and qualities that come with the game of golf and the discipline, the practice, and the honesty and integrity, all great things. But we are indirectly instilling these passions, these interests, these habits in our children, not 1-to-1 ratio, but in lots of ways influencing how they look. So how to motivate generally starts with, well, how do you live? What are you modeling? And what techniques and what priorities have you put forth when you see a kid struggling? Because some of this, this applies to a kid that wants to be better, but this also applies to a kid that's really struggling. Like, how do you motivate? How do you pull them out of a pit and not make them, sink deeper? Or how do you hit the kid that's already got a good stride, and how do you help them go faster?
Mm-hmm.
The same mechanics, more or less, they're going to be more or less the same. But that's the why. We want the best for our children. We want them to be happy. We want them to be well-adjusted. We want them to be healthy. We want them to have a full life. We want to give them like a passion for life and things that we feel like are good for them. But how parents typically go about motivating their children, this is a generality, doesn't usually work very well. Unintentionally, they bring about more shame and more resistance and more roadblocks than they do inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to talk more, and when we talk about the how parents how their attempt to motivate can backfire, and where maybe to err on the side of support and encouragement versus just the driver that we sometimes see with successful people, but oftentimes I see hurt children that were really harmed by a driver parent where they thought it was all about performance. Like they weren't good enough by themselves. They constantly had to achieve in order to get mom and dad's approval. That's the downside that I want to bring light to as parents kind of balance like how much energy they put into motivating their children.
Well, and I'm sure there's some ground rules to motivation as far as one, I think when you said modeling, like that was just a big light bulb for me, because I know that's been a theme throughout the podcast, right? It's just modeling, just how much of like monkey see, monkey do, right?
Yes.
But
Lots of monkeys.
also to that, like, I think as people are trying to motivate their kids, like I'm sure there's just a lot of ground rules as far as making sure that you always create a safe space, making sure you always do like some of these things where it's not all about this one thing of motivation, right? So like with me and Tyler, like smacking is not all or nothing. That's not the bar. Like smacking is so inconsequential in life, right? It's like he's such a good kid.
Yeah.
He's so authentic. He has so much empathy towards people. Like it's just unbelievable, right? And I'm like, and so but it's just in that moment and having had that experience, it's really easy for me to see how parents can lose sight of that, of like, because I wasn't his safe space in that moment, right?
Yeah.
Of like where he could feel safe and just be himself. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's ground rules is a good kind of like concept. I would say before a parent engages in like overt motivational influence, a ground rule would say, well, have you established and have you achieved an established acceptance? Does your child believe, not just know, but they actually believe kind of at their like heart level that they're good already, that they're accepted already for who they are? And this is important because I've just worked with too many people over the years that didn't believe they were okay just the way they are. They had to go like achieve something to get mom and dad's approval. Mm-hmm. Mom and dad's encouragement for and motivating them was actually kind of misunderstood. Like, I'll love you and be proud of you when, not now, not already. And so a ground rule to start with is before you go and try to motivate your child, make sure they already feel accepted. Mm-hmm. Just think about like putting yourself in their shoes and just turning the spotlight to yourself. Most people just want to know they're okay right now, But if they feel like they're going to be okay when they achieve the next thing, it can create this conditional love, this performance-based acceptance, which is a super shitty model to participate in.
Mm-hmm.
Going back kind of to like mindfulness and like overall like self-worth, we're better as humans when we're just okay already.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to go achieve anything else to be okay. When humans believe they need to go achieve something to be okay, they instantly put themselves on a treadmill and never get off until they realize you don't go anywhere. You have to just choose to be accepting of yourself. Whether you want to go achieve anything beyond that is a separate subject. But we can instill in our children unintentionally a conditional acceptance, a conditional love. If you could just not smack, I'll be proud of you.
Right.
That's not what you really believe, but that's the messaging that could be received.
Mm-hmm.
So a ground rule to say, before you engage in motivation, one thing you want to accomplish and account for is, I love you, like you, and accept you just the way you are. And I try to tell my children that often before I give them encouragement so they don't misperceive that I'm wanting to see this change in them so that then I accept them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I'm just writing it down for those of you that can't see.
Dan's taking some notes.
Yeah. Taking notes. I love you, I like you, and accept you just the way.
Just right now, the way you are. If you don't do a single additional thing in life, I like you, I love you, I'm proud of you, and I accept you. I mean, I can't emphasize this enough. And you know, if I get emotional, it's because I've seen it for so many years. People that spend their whole lives trying to seek acceptance from their parents.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what does that even mean? What are they going to give you? Usually it's as simple as, I wish they would have just said they were proud of me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, shit, tell your kids you're proud of them right now. You can't find it something you're proud of them? Like, look harder.
Yeah.
You want them to feel good and accomplish. Give them basic sustenance of life. Like, just the way you are. I accept you and love you and like you, and I'm proud of you. If you want to achieve more, I'm all behind you, but you don't need to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I stress that when my daughter talks about how she wants to improve in soccer, I would say, just so you know, if you want to improve, I'm all for it, but you don't need to improve for my sake. Like, I like you and love you and I'm proud of you just the way you are. If you want to get better, I'll help you. I'll give feedback, but I don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's your deal. To me, the hitting those like ground rules or those like maybe prerequisites before you get them to the next level, make sure they feel like you're already okay with who they are. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's easy to assume love and acceptance are contingent upon performance and next level achievement. Based on the thousands of people I've talked to over my career that still are kind of thinking they're going to feel good at the next level of achievement. I'm like, what does that even mean? Who's going to give you a trophy? Someone come to your door and tell you, you did it. You're now accepted. No, it doesn't exist. Ultimately, we have to be okay with ourselves. But as parents, we're instilling these habits. And as parents, we can say, you need to be okay with you. I'm already okay with you. I want you to be okay with you. If you want to get better, be better. But that doesn't mean you can't be okay with you. You can't love and accept yourself unless you go achieve that. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy how that's absorbed and put into like worldview and how familiar it is and how that can just like fast forward into adulthood. So,
I mean, would you not say that's the number one root cause of therapy is people don't feel accepted by their parents?
Yes. Without a doubt. That's like the most damaging thing a parent can do is in any way to express or communicate some sort of rejection or disapproval based on who they are.
Yeah. I just think it's so massive. I think I think that's why we're doing this podcast, to be honest. Like that's almost the whole reason is to help inspire or uh just get it out there, like for parents just to simply say they accept their kids for who and how they are,
I agree. If we
right?
could, if we said the same damn podcast every week,
Yeah.
it would be make sure your kids know they're good enough already. So
Hmm.
they could save like 30 fucking years of their life trying to go
Yeah.
win your approval. Only to like not get it again, because it's by that time it's like convoluted and they
Hmm.
can't even receive it and hear it. Start now wherever your child is.
Hmm.
I love you, I like you, and I accept you, and I'm proud of who you are already. If you want to go beyond that, I'm your biggest fan.
Hmm.
I'll give you feedback, I'll give you encouragement, I'll give you accountability, but I want you to know that you're already good.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean you have to like everything they do. That doesn't mean they're perfect. To say you like them doesn't mean you like everything they do. To say you love them doesn't mean they're perfect. To say you accept them isn't really conditional upon their performance, right? Proud
Hmm.
of them. You could be proud of them 100 things and disappointed in 100 things. You're still proud of them.
Hmm.
Do not keep those words from your children. You can't imagine how good it is for them to hear that. Because imagine if you heard that from your parents,
Hmm.
what that would do for you. A lot of adults are still consciously or subconsciously like looking to fill that hole that they wish their parents would have filled. You don't have to wait. You don't have to be an amazing parent. They don't have to be amazing kids to gift them this like acceptance and assurance that they're okay already. If you want to go beyond that, awesome, go for it. But I don't care.
Hmm.
I tell my daughter that before I give her advice in her friendships or in soccer, I say, you're already good.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't need you to be any better. If you want to be better, let's talk about it. I don't want her to think that I need her to be better. I don't want her to think that I'm only proud of her if she's improving. That's stupid.
Hmm.
I want her to improve because it's a good way to live, but it's not contingent upon my love and acceptance. So I stress, you're good already. And so so the ground rules is make sure your child, before you say a fucking word about what they could be better at, make sure they already know that they're good and that you like them and that you accept them. Because that's a bigger box to check before you get them to the next level of whatever.
Yeah. I know without a doubt it's my biggest probably fear as a parent to and like you mentioned, golf and some other things and just we live in a competitive environment and stuff like that, but just wanting to 100% know, because my boys have really gotten into golf and all that stuff and wanting to perform and all that stuff, and it's such a hard game. It just messes with your head and stuff, and it's like you can be on top of the world and be at the bottom of the world the next day, right?
Or just
And
the next shot.
yeah, just like, right. It's just such a crazy game. And I'm like, why do they even get in it? Why are we even down this road? But whatever. But I just don't want them to ever feel like, any bad round or bad shot or whatever, that is like this feeling of, oh, not good enough, not whatever. And it's a hard, I think it's a hard, thing as parents to truly, truly, uh, just instill that or make sure that they know that, because I feel like I can say that 1,000 times to my boys. My daughter hasn't, she's not old enough to really be in that realm yet, so I don't know if she gets as much as I do, but just to then, um, I feel like they could feel it in other ways as far as like, oh, uh, like they'll ask for like accountability on, hey, like we want to set up an accountability for practice. Okay, are you practicing today? Did you do this today? Did you do your mental work? Did you do your swing stuff? Did you know all that stuff? So it's like finding that balance of just even those check-ins and things like that of in any way insinuating that you're not good enough,
Yeah.
because oh, you had a bad round last week or whatever, versus truly 100% them knowing that it doesn't matter at all, and
Yeah.
it like they can never play again, and it wouldn't matter to mom and dad
Yeah.
at all. Um,
What I want to highlight though, not that the important piece of that is separating their worth and their identity from their performance.
mm-hmm.
That's key as a parent, because if we don't make that if we don't distinguish that,
Yeah.
they can assume that their self-worth and their identity is the same as performance, and then their self-worth goes up and down based on daily performance. So say as a
Right.
golfer, you can be neurotic. I'm a good golfer, I'm a bad golfer, I have no idea, oh my gosh, I'm killing it. People do that in their real life, and I over-identify, and kids especially, because they don't have a lot of track record. And as a parent, we have a responsibility or an opportunity to teach them, your worth is not based on the next thing you do. And I don't want you to think that way. It's too much pressure, and that's not even a reasonable concept. How is that even a thing? How's your self-worth as a human being fairly evaluated by the next thing you do? That's too much pressure. Don't do that. Your
Mm-hmm.
grades, how many friends you have, how many goals you scored, or what your golf score is. That's not you. That's just how you performed that day.
Mm-hmm.
Who you are is how you handled the adversity, day in, day out, how you lived your life, or what you mean to other people, and you mean a ton to me. I don't want you to overemphasize how you perform and connect that to your self-worth, because that's when shame and success and failure start to really take root.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a gross overemphasis, and I
Mm-hmm.
see it in adults still. It's not just a child thing. Adults still think, oh, good day, bad day, I got a lot of stuff done, my self-worth is up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what do you mean? Did someone come to your door and give you a self-worth trophy? Like, no one gives a shit how much stuff you got done.
Mm-hmm.
You're scoring yourself unfairly. I don't want my child to go through life daily evaluating by how much stuff they got done, whether they're a good human or not. That's
Mm-hmm.
such a unintelligent, unconscious way to live. You are good because you're here, and I love you and I like you. I want you to be so present and so appreciative of being alive. You don't need to do anything extra today, and if you do, great. You're probably going to like doing stuff, and so you're going to keep doing it. But I don't want you to think that each day is evaluated by your score, whether it's on the court, the course, the classroom, your friends, social media. It's such a disgusting, cheap measurement of human self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's developed in childhood, often by unconscious parents overemphasizing achievement. So, ground rule, you need to be okay with who you are without achieving another thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to achieve another thing, let's go 100%. And we're going to celebrate your effort. And if you win, great. If you lose, totally fine. That's part of it. Every game has a winner and a loser. Let's be grateful that you got to participate. Let's be proud that you tried hard. And then if you win, you high five. If you lose, you're great. You're a good loser.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's a sports kind of analogy, but it's a good way to live life in general. People do it with their tasks. People do it with their relationships, their self-care, or whatever else they're measuring. We have a chance as parents to instill a worldview and a self-identity that's way more intelligent than go win and you'll feel good. No, you won't. You will for a few moments,
Mm-hmm.
but you kind of build a habit of you have to win to be good, to feel good. Oh, how sad is that? You have to win to feel good. You can only win so many times. Why can't you enjoy all of it and still play hard? We like to think there's all or nothing, and there's all this in between space of play to win, but be grateful for all of it, because it's all a gift. And we want our kids to know that. We want them to be able to enjoy the things they do and not throw fits. You talked about this kid on the course today who throws tantrums when he's not playing well. As a parent, I'd be like, holy shit, I got some work to do. I cannot let them think that this is who they are and that life is about scoring low. Of course you want to score low. It's way more fun. But the game of golf and the game of life is about overcoming adversity and pushing through. You can't be your best if you're constantly throwing a fit and overreacting and over-identifying. Like, I'm a bad golfer. I missed the last shot. No, it's a bad shot. Oh, it was a bad day. It was a tough thing. So what? Like, do your best the next time around.
Mm-hmm.
So ground rules of the how, make sure you're fully establishing, you're regularly checking the box. Do they know I accept them, like them, love them, and am proud of them for who they are without doing another thing?
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't talk about the next thing until you have some sort of indication that they're absorbing their acceptance and appreciation for who they already are.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing to prioritize, another like ground rule, is to make sure what you're motivating them in is either like fair and healthy, like let's say it's self-care, or if it's an extracurricular that they've expressed as an innate or a genuine, authentic desire to be better, and you're just supporting that. You're not pushing your agenda on them, right? So during dinner tonight, we talked to Carly, your youngest,
Mm-hmm.
about golf, and you were talking about how good she was, and then I asked her, "Do you like it? And do you want to play more? Or do you want to be better? Something?"
Mm-hmm.
And she said no. Now I don't know why she said no, but to me as a parent, I would say that's very telling. That I want to be very cautious, that I don't disregard, that I can accurately calculate, does she need to be pushed or is pushing dangerous?
Yeah.
Because if someone says they don't want it, sometimes that's a lie. Sometimes it's true. We need to be able to differentiate. We need to know, do they really want to succeed, but they're afraid of failure, and so they're saying they don't care? And then pushing them would actually be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Or they really don't want to do it, and I push it and make them feel judged or pressured to perform to get my acceptance. We need to be able to discern the difference between those two roads. I don't know Carly well enough to know why she's resistant to put more time into golf. But as a parent, you're going to want to be able to differentiate what's my passion for her versus what's her true passion. I don't want to step all over her ego and self-worth by pushing something she doesn't really want. But if she does want it and she's like just keeping it a secret and she's afraid of failure and she would benefit from a little push, I want to delicately push that.
Right. I mean, I think to me that's one of the harder things, figuring that out with kids, and I know with my upbringing, and I talked to my wife, Libby, her upbringing, and she said that, she was just never pushed and just shied away from those moments and didn't want to do it. Right. And I think, I think there's circumstances, but, she said she went to a high school where she played basketball up until high school. Well, her starting five in high school, they all had D1 scholarships, right? And so they were like
Indiana.
Yeah, Indiana, right? They're all Hoosiers, right?
Yeah.
So I can see how that would be intimidating, right? And she's like, well, I mean,
Yeah.
they're absolute studs and whatever. And so she kind of changed paths. And I don't know if it was really ever her passion anyways, where, I always have that debate with my kids. Again, they're young, they're 13 and 11, but they say their dream, at an early age was to play golf and to be a professional golfer, And so you're like, is that truly, your dream, right? And
Yeah.
so I know with Carly, like it's not. And for me right now, it's just as selfishly motivated as a parent. Like, can we drive them to one spot? And for all you for all you parents who do the crazy driving in a million different directions and stuff. And so if there is any nudging or pushing, it's like, I just want to hope to that we could drive to one location and you guys all get to go have fun for a couple hours and do something together, And it was just her and my oldest that we played last night, and it was great. And they, goofed around and laughed and whatever. But she's incredibly talented, and I mean, like I told you, she, got a 2 on a par 4 for like the little kids part. Like I'm just like, the boys never did that at your age. You're insane,
Yeah.
Like, this is amazing. And she's like, I don't like it, Dad. So it's fun. We just mess around with it, but I think it will be hard to find out. I guess that was sort of what I was talking about earlier. Is like, how do you truly know what your kids really want? Because do they know what they want? Like, I don't think I knew what I wanted in life till I still don't know what I want in life all the time, but
Yeah.
until I was at least 25, I don't think I knew what I really wanted. So it's
Yeah.
just,
Well,
finding those, how hard do you push them in sort of a loving way to be like, I just want you to be able to open up some doors if they're available to you. You know what I mean?
yeah. Cautiously
Right.
you push. And it's kind of my next point with like the how to is cautiously pursue / encourage / push, because the risk is way higher than the benefit. The risk of shaming or creating a conditional love and acceptance based on performance, or probably the most common, just instilling like your self-worth is attached to how much stuff you get done or how much stuff you achieve, which breeds a, generally speaking, like a very anxious, unhappy adult who's overly focused on results. And so their self-worth and their acceptance and daily achievement is based on how much stuff they got done or how many people liked what they do. It's just a pretty shitty existence versus I'm okay. I like who I am, and I'm okay if I don't get anything done. But getting stuff done or achieving this is a good way to live, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to get better. I'm going to improve in this area because improving is a good idea, but not because I need to be okay. So cautiously encouraging, inspiring, in general, is the best parenting approach. Only because the risk factor is so much higher than the upside.
Right.
The risk factor of shaming or communicating a rejection or a lack of acceptance is so much more probable than it is inspiring an Olympic athlete, that you should err on caution. Not because caution's always the best idea, but given the ratio and given the likelihood, the power of a parenting message, I'd say go cautious. It's better for them to find their own passion than feeling like you've got to cultivate it for them. It's very presumptuous. One, that you have the power to do that, and two, that that's how it works all the time. Based on like numbers, I would say you're likely to make them feel judged and inadequate more so than you are inspired to be amazing. That doesn't mean there aren't parents that don't inspire their kids to be amazing, or that the listener can't and doesn't inspire their kid to be amazing. It's just the risk factor of making them feel shitty, or that your love is conditional, or their acceptance is conditional upon performance. It's just more likely. So that's why I say be cautious. Like my dad was a college athlete, played college football, was a great high school athlete. He is super intentional about not pushing anything. Very much waited until my brother and I expressed an interest. And even then, he wasn't like ever a driver. He was only like a supporter, like imagine like hand on the back when we stalled, like a push, not even a push, just like a backstop, versus someone out ahead being like barking orders like catch up,
Right.
catch up. If you want to play college, you gotta get up here. Never. Just like, hey, if you want to play college basketball, which was my, sport at the time, thinking I was going to do that, was you might have to do this, or this. But I don't know. I didn't play college basketball. I played college football. Here's what I did. But it wasn't ever, you have to, you should, I'll be proud of you when. It was, I love you already. Like, you're great. I want you to be happy and healthy. If you want to, go for it. You probably have to work really hard. You probably have to say no to some things. But it was never an absolute, and it was never attached to self-worth. And so that's what I really want to highlight is that you separate self-worth and acceptance from motivation, because the parent's words are so much more powerful than anyone else's words in a child's life, that we need to be more conscious and intentional in what we share and how we motivate, because it has more weight than anyone else.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that really resonated with me, you and I were chatting a while about this. I don't know if you remember this, but we were talking about mindfulness, and we're kind of going down that whole rabbit hole, right? Just how do you even sort of interact with your consciousness, right? And it's like you could just sit there as like a monk, like a Buddhist monk, and just not do anything, right? And just trying to interact and just seek, enlightenment, right? And but you made this comment, you're like, well, yeah, we can always be mindful every moment, right? And I think in this instance, you're talking about being mindful, like you don't want to push your kid, be mindful in the moment and be like, let them know that you love them and that you accept them, right? But at the same time, we're here on this planet, so you might as well do something with your body, right? And if that's the thing that you want to do, so for example, if my boys say they love the game of golf and they want to play golf, then I'm like, cool. Let's be mindful and let's be good people and be empathetic and kind towards people. And if there's a thing that you want to do while you're hanging out and it happens to be golf,
Yeah.
then go do it. Versus like, I feel like I was in my thing was baseball, right? I think it's so easy just to use sports because sports are such like a thing in our culture. But mine was that, and it was just, and I think my dad, he wasn't like intentionally trying to, uh, harm or through motivation or anything like that. But he was just like, if you want to go to the major leagues, you got to do this, you got to do this, and he was a track athlete in college. So he had some stuff from like the old school days probably too, like the regimen and things like that.
Yeah.
But it was very result driven, right? And just like that's the bar, and you got to get to that, to that, to that.
Yeah.
Versus I just like that idea of sort of like this mindful existence. And if you want to do something to spend your time, go do that thing. Spend your time doing that thing.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
do it well. Like,
And if you want to be well and exceed, then cool.
yeah. Well, and this is a gigantic.
I know I threw like a little rabbit hole there, but yeah.
Well, I was talking about it with a client today. I mean, daily, it's a topic of conversation. We are raised to believe in our culture that we need to like ourselves, love ourselves, accept ourselves, and indirectly or unconsciously, we're looking for love and acceptance from others.
Mm-hmm.
Coming from a true like mindfulness standpoint, the message would be you don't need to spend time loving and liking and accepting yourself. Doing that is a detour from actually being present in life. If you're preoccupied with needing to like yourself, you're actually going to live a less fulfilling life than if you were just to be fully present. Meaning, you have to pause your present existence to go kind of evaluate, am I doing it well? Am I liking myself?
Right.
And to be fully present, you're not saying, am I doing it well? Am I liking myself? You're just in it. I'm just talking to Dan. I'm talking to hopefully interested, engaged parents right now. I don't need to wonder how I'm doing. The second I engage in wondering how I'm doing, I'm diluting my experience in the present moment, and I'm reinforcing this constant like addiction to evaluation, which is bred oftentimes in childhood through performance, acceptance, approval. So that's the negative, that's the downside of preaching and instilling performance, is we're teaching a human to be preoccupied with scoring their existence versus just breathing, living, grateful for the moment.
Mm-hmm.
What do most people want? They say they want to be happy. Where is the ultimate happiness experienced? Usually in the absence of judgment.
Right.
in the absence of comparison, in the absence of analysis.
Mm.
That's right now if you're conscious. You don't have to go find it. Just stop doing the noise. Stop engaging in the analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching our kids to just be grateful to even be here. If they want to do X, Y, or Z with their time, great, go for it. Be your best because it's a good idea to try hard. But don't confuse needing to be the best in order to be fully present and to be okay. That's the messaging. It's not don't try hard. It's not don't try to be your best. Don't try to win the game. Sure, try to win the game, but don't loop it back to your self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest detriment that kids and adults end up suffering from is I'm bad because I didn't win. I'm like, why did you need to be bad or good? Why wasn't it just okay to be?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a privilege to be on the court, the field, the course, classroom, in a family, on a date. Why can't you just appreciate? Well, we're not taught that. We don't, from early on, the parents are reinforcing goals, achievement, success, only to suffer and to feel a lot of inadequacy and judgment. This is to the parent and to the child. The best thing you can do is prioritize fulfillment in the moment by just being present and appreciating and being conscious of your tendency to want to score and judge and evaluate. That's the thief
Mm-hmm.
of pleasure, or more better said, that's the thief of peace. Don't teach your kids to live the same way. Don't worry about them being monks in a cave or a homeless person on the sidewalk who's just working at being content. It's a natural human inclination to want to contribute and succeed and participate. Just don't have it linked to self-worth. So we do that by lots of like little lectures, little like, hey, if you want to try hard because it's a good way to live. But I don't want you to think that I need you to do that in order to like you. I don't want you to think that you're not okay unless you go win that game. I want you to be okay with who you are, whether you play the game or not. Being alive is a big enough deal. Being even here in this conversation is a privilege. On top of that, to get to go play in a game or to pass a test or make a friend, that's all bonus.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to just appreciate that. I don't want you to attach that to your self-worth. That's why I say be cautious in what you motivate, because we don't know, most parents don't know that they're instilling a worldview that almost becomes a detriment to their well-being, that they have to constantly succeed in order to be okay. Like, what a curse.
Mm-hmm.
Versus succeed or not succeed, it's really subjective anyways. Why can't you just be grateful to be alive? And while you're here, play the game. Try hard, because it's a good idea to try hard. If you win, great, celebrate. If you lose, so what? It doesn't really mean anything anyway. No one cares.
Mm-hmm.
No one knows, once you and I die, no one cares now, but let alone like, what did we do? What did we win? Who knows? No one knows. No one cares. Why suffer?
Right.
Why go up or down at all when it doesn't matter, other than the more moments I have feeling at peace and grateful for my existence, the better my life is. The same for your children. Stop worrying about what they're going to do in life. The better they are, the more present they are, the more peaceful their experience is going to be. And I would say the better their human experience is going to be. Stop prioritizing the shit in your own life that still hasn't worked for you.
Mm-hmm.
You're not happy. And I can say this to a lot of adults that are listening. You're probably not happy. Stop teaching your kids the formula that doesn't work. Teach now like how to breathe and be acceptance and grateful to be alive. And if you're going to do a thing, try hard, because it's a good idea. It feels good to try hard.
Mm-hmm.
It feels good to put effort in. Even if you lose, you're like, well, at least I played hard. I tried hard. I really gave it my best. I'm disappointed I lost, but it feels good to try hard. These aren't juxtaposed concepts. Being present and being grateful is not counter to trying hard and engaging in life and achieving things. It's just when achieving is looped back to or tied to self-worth that it's a problem. So encouraging in our children how to live well and be grateful and be present, assuring them that they're good enough. We like them already. If they want to do more, we're their biggest fan. That's how you bring these two concepts together. You want them to contribute because it feels good, but even more importantly, you want them to be happy and to be at peace, which is less about achievement. It's more about existence. So as a parent, making sure you're emphasizing, and we've said it a bunch now, I like you, I love you, and I accept you just the way you are. If you want to do more, go for it. And if you want help doing that, I'd love to help. But more importantly, you're already good, and I want you to revel in that. I want you to cherish that and savor that. Given that I know that most adults still don't feel that way, we can give that to our children right now. So we want to motivate our children. Okay, but let's make sure we check those boxes first. You're okay with you're already okay with who you are. I already like you. You don't need to prove anything to me. If you're going to do something, you might as well do it well. You might as well try hard because it feels good. But don't be confused that my acceptance of you or you need to accept yourself is contingent upon your level of achievement. We know that trap of scoring. We hear it from people at all ages, at all stages of life, their tendency to continue to score thinking the next score is going to like somehow catapult them into like acceptance and self-worth. And no matter what their age, no matter what their self-worth or net worth, it still can be empty if someone doesn't know how to be grateful to be alive.
Yeah, no, I love it, Josh. And I think that's a great recap. The whole I love you, I like you, and I accept you just the way you are. I'm going to repeat that a million times to my kids. And I have a little story to share that I think kind of wraps this whole conversation up on kind of how important this acceptance is and uh, not prioritizing this sort of scoring mentality or motivation through scoring, right? So I heard the story today about a neuroscientist, right? And he was invited to speak up at this rich guy's home up in Aspen. They had some big foundation up there, right? And the guy's a multi-billionaire. Um, you know, as soon as he brings him into the house, goes right to the garage, shows him all of his cars, his like Ferraris, Bugattis, whatever. Shows him his watch. It's $1 million watch. He's bragging about the $1 million watch, right? And the neuroscientist is like, oh, this guy's full of himself. And sure enough, the guy's like at the end of his speech, he comes up to him, the rich guy, and says, "Hey, I've never been happy in my life. I have all this money and wealth." And he said, "Could you teach me how to be happy?" And the guy says, "Yeah." And I think he knew what his sort of scoring system was, right? It's money and wealth and all of this, that's kind of how he values his self-worth. And he says, "I can teach you, but it's going to cost you $1 million." And the guy says, "No, I'm good. That really keeps $1 million, right?" And his kids are there, and he's like, "No, Dad, like this is worth it. You should do it, right?" And obviously, they've probably never felt acceptance from their dad, is my guess too, right? And it's hard to imagine this guy's ever felt acceptance, right? He's just been pushing and driving his whole life to get all these material assets and things. And then the ironic thing, the guy said, he's like, for the $1 million, I was just going to tell him all he has to do is go and just be kind to 10 people today and you'll feel happy. It was that simple.
Yeah.
And so, thinking back to what do we want for our kids, that to me is just plain as day. It's black and white. Do I want my kids to feel their self-worth is the test score or achievements or sports? So then what? So then they can be rich. So then what? They can have a nice watch on their wrist. They can have nice cars and never essentially be happy. Or could we just teach them to be kind to others and go be kind to 10 people today, right?
Yeah.
And just feel accepted and loved. So to me, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And I love that saying again, I love you, I like you, I accept you just the way you are. And sort of, starting any motivational speech with that.
Yeah.
Even if I've been, eating a steady diet of government cheese, living in a van by the river, giving my motivational speech. For any of you old enough to know that reference. But yeah, but great stuff as always, Josh. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, me too. I hope as we go through it and, succeed and fail, hopefully us sharing it is motivational and is educational, and that we're helping you be better parents and create healthier people that then continue to pass it along to their kids.
Yep, agreed. And so, again, thank you. Pretty good parent community out there. We really appreciate you. If you found this, at all helpful, or that it could help anybody else, please share it with them.
Yeah.
Like and or subscribe. Our whole goal is to just make pretty good parents, and then hopefully make some pretty good kids, and we'll make a pretty good world together.
Yeah, we like that.
So,
we don't need your acceptance.
Yeah.
We're okay with who we are.
Yeah.
We don't need to perform. But if we're performing well, we're creating a better world, creating better people. So let's perform well.
Yeah.
Let's like some things. Let's share some things. Please share your feedback, any encouragement. We love hearing it.
And again, just let your kids, that, or they know that you accept them, and let's all go be pretty good parents together.
Let's do it.
All right. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks, Dan.
All right. Thank you, Josh.
Peace.